Hey, soulmates, we have plenty to converse about on this Wednesday, December 21st. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. We are honored to stand behind this desk each day to take you on a journey across Black America and the stories that impact our people. You know we're going to bring you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's check in with today's top headline. Justice is served. Former Fort Worth police officer Aaron Dean will spend more than 11 years in prison for killing Atatiana Jefferson.
Verdict reads, we the jury, having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of manslaughter, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days.
Aaron Dean showing no emotion as he was sentenced to nearly 12 years behind bars for the shooting death of Atatiana Jefferson in 2019.
She would shine in the darkest situations.
Jefferson's cousin, Cerise Fortson, and her sister, Ashley Carr, had final words for Dean just moments after the verdict.
That you saw fit to take her from this undeserving world, thinking her light would leave with her. That's what you thought. But I want you to go to your cell knowing that her light is only transferred.
Afterwards, Dean's sister was seen speaking with Dean's attorneys while his parents stood silently behind her. The family left the courtroom together, making no comments to reporters. James Smith, the neighbor who called the non-emergency number to report the open doors at Jefferson's mother's home and a witness in trial, spoke briefly.
I'm still processing it, but the max is what I was looking for, but we're satisfied with the verdict.
Prosecutors Ashley Adiner and Dale Smith reflected on trying their first case involving a police shooting.
It was not our intent to put Fort Worth Police Department on trial. We put this defendant on trial.
And while both say they would have preferred a murder conviction, they're satisfied with the roughly 12 hours over the course of 2 days jury spent on deliberations.
They made a thoughtful decision, and that is the cornerstone of the American justice system. And so we really appreciate all the hard work they did.
Dean must serve at least half of his sentence before he's eligible for parole. And because the jury sentenced him to more than 10 years, he will not be able to get out of prison if he chooses to appeal the conviction.
Am I relieved that this is over for the family? I am happy that they are happy and they're relieved.
Defense attorneys Bob Gill and Miles Brissett did not address reporters after the sentencing. Jurors finally free to go Tuesday afternoon with bags in hand after being sequestered Monday night for a second time during the trial. The symbolism of their sentence not lost on both the prosecution and Jefferson's family and supporters.
Haven't quite figured it out yet, but I think they did that on purpose.
11 years for the current age of Jefferson's nephew Zion Carr, 10 months and 12 days representing October 12th, the date Jefferson was killed. Her family, supporters, and community activists determined to keep her spirit alive.
So what I'm saying is, Aaron Dean, you ain't stopped nothing. You ain't stopped nothing.
He's your prisoner, Sheriff.
Okay, the jury reached the unanimous decision on the sentence after a day and a half of deliberations.
Atlanta police report that in the span of just 3 weeks, 4 children between ages 11 and 16 have been killed, forcing Atlanta Mayor Andre Dinkins to speak up. Dinkins says that the recent trend is unacceptable. According to reports, the most recent shooting took place Saturday evening at the apartment complex when 2 teens were killed and 3 others were injured. Community leaders are working with Mayor Dinkins on solutions to the violence, with some community leaders recommending a nightly curfew until violence curbs.
All right, so let's go to Ohio now, where it's just a disturbing story as one child has been located and another is still missing after 2 5-month-olds were abducted from a restaurant parking lot. This happened Monday night in Columbus. The person of interest believed to have taken the car has been identified as 24-year-old Nala Jackson, who you see here pictured, and those are the twins on the other side. Now, according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the mother of Kason and Kyer, Thomas walked into a restaurant right around 9:45 p.m. on Monday while her car was running with the twin boys in their car seats. When she turned around, her vehicle, which is a four-door black 2010 Honda Accord, was gone. Now, anyone with information regarding Kayson's whereabouts is asked to contact the Columbus Police Department or Central Ohio Crime Stoppers. That number is 614-461-TIPS, as you see at the bottom of your screen there.
A missing Clayton County girl who was believed to be in grave danger has been located by police. The 11-year-old was reported missing after she ran away from home on Tuesday. Fox's Deidre Dukes has the latest.
Clayton County Police announced the 11-year-old had been located just hours after holding a news conference asking for the public's help in finding the child. Fox 5 was there as the child's mother was reunited with the girl at Clayton Police headquarters. Police held a news conference Friday morning, just hours before they announced she had been located, to update the public on the search for the child.
We want to thank all of our law enforcement partners that are currently assisting us with this case.
Police officials said they believe the girl was with an adult she met on social media after she slipped out of her Jonesboro residence with a bag Tuesday afternoon. They couldn't say whether that individual was a man or woman, but they believed she was in grave danger. Detectives thought she was still in Georgia and were working with federal authorities to try to find her. They had a message for the person she was believed to be with.
The advice to the adult is to please bring Arkayla Briggs home to her parents. They miss her. They want her home.
Just after 2, officials announced the child had been found, was in police custody, and had been reunited with her family. Several local and federal agencies worked with Clayton Police to find the girl. Officials aren't saying whether or not a suspect is in custody or has been identified. In Jonesboro, Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
Our thanks to Deidre Dukes. Police didn't explain where she was found or if she was with anyone. We're working to learn if anyone has been arrested in the investigation, and we'll keep you updated on this story. Courtney, this has got to be a parent's worst nightmare here.
Yeah.
But it's also a cautionary tale around the use of social media. This 11-year-old was apparently sort of reeled in by an adult on social media. And it's just another reminder to parents that we got to be watchful of who kids are engaging with on social media, because this story could have been a whole lot worse.
And here's the thing, as the story began to break, and of course, folks across social media have their opinions, especially once the parents voiced their concerns and was pleading for their daughter back. I remember reading in a lot of the comments about how credible the parents were. And I just think it also speaks to how questionable we have a tendency to be when these stories hit the scene, and how sometimes we just need to wait a moment and gather more facts, because it clearly is being revealed here that she was taken or lured into a situation by an adult, which is a crime, according to what we saw in that report. So, I know we like to voice our opinions on social media. I just was a little disturbed by folks thinking that the parents weren't credible enough, maybe because they didn't look a certain way or sound a certain way. But obviously, this case was what they said it was, and we're glad that this little girl is back at home. But let's be careful before we pass judgment on what we think or what we believe something may be.
That's right.
Yeah. All righty, to Los Angeles now, where former NFL star Willie McGinnis posted bail hours after he was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon over the weekend. Now, the former linebacker turned himself into the LA County Sheriff's Station in West Hollywood. Reports say McGinnis was recorded striking a man in the face and eventually hitting him with a bottle during a fight at a nightclub on December 9th. McGinnis spent 15 years in the NFL with the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns after playing college football at USC.
In a new lawsuit filed by the Mississippi branch of the NAACP, the state is being accused of perpetuating a legacy of racial discrimination because lawmakers failed to draw enough majority black districts for the state House and Senate. The Mississippi NAACP and 5 black residents of Mississippi filed the suit in federal court in Jackson, challenging districts that are scheduled to be used in the 2023 election. Now, the suit comes 6 weeks before candidates' qualifying deadline of February 1st. The suit says redistricting plans for the 122-member House and 52-member Senate will dilute the voting power of black people in a state with the largest percentage of black residents.
Okay, let's go to the nation's capital now as congressional leaders released a bipartisan government funding bill that includes a rewrite of federal election laws aimed at preventing another January 6th style attack and cutting off ways for future candidates to steal elections. They expect to pass the bill in the coming days to avoid a government shutdown slated to begin this weekend. It is the product of lengthy negotiations between the two parties and has President Biden's support. The Senate is hoping to make their deadline of December 23rd to pass a $1.7 trillion plan that will fund the government through September of next year. Now, both Senate leaders back the bill, but some Republicans are adamant they will kill the legislation if it's not passed this week.
The city of Durham, North Carolina, will pay $100,000 to the family of a black teen who accused a white police officer of using excessive force and falsely arresting him in 2019. Tony Scott Jr. was 16 when he said the officer picked up and body slammed him inside a convenience store, an incident that upended his life. Scott faced 2 felony assault charges after the incident, which his lawyers alleged was a frame job. Prosecutors dropped the charges 4 months later. The Durham City Council approved the settlement in a closed session. Taxpayer money was used to pay the settlement as the insurance policy only kicks in above $1 million.
And moving on to Georgia, Stacey Abrams' gubernatorial campaign for 2022 is coming under a microscope as stories are surfacing of alleged wasted spending. Now, the reports alleged that these issues were forcing the campaign to tighten its belt in the crucial final weeks and cut off paychecks to staffers sooner than they expected. Now, it has been confirmed by Abrams' campaign manager that the campaign owes more than $1 million in her unsuccessful rematch in November against Governor Brian Kemp.
University Academy, a Kansas City charter school, has fired a white history teacher who students say repeatedly used the N-word during class, sparking widespread outrage. Students and alumni brought forward concerns about Johnny Wolf, a history and African American studies teacher. They said Wolf used the racial slur multiple times in his class, mostly made up of black students. Students took videos and voice recordings while confronting their teachers about his use of the slur, which were later posted by the Kansas City Defender, a black nonprofit community media platform. In the recordings, he defends his use of the slur, saying that, quote, "We cannot police other people's speech." And he was speaking in an educational context. University Academy officials said in a letter to families that the teacher had been terminated and will not return to the school.
Now, here's a follow-up to a story you may be familiar with as the video went viral. Administrators at Winston-Salem State University, that's an HBCU, have pledged to, quote, bring a resolution after a black student was arrested in a white professor's classroom following a verbal altercation. Chancellor Elwood L. Robinson said in a letter, quote, "We understand that the weaponization of police is a prevalent problem in our community. However, that is not what happened in this incident," end quote. That's according to the university faculty page. The teacher is an assistant professor of history and Middle Eastern studies. Robinson said while students want immediate answers, the university has to complete its own procedures for an investigation, but promises a fair examination of what exactly happened.
The city of Milwaukee believes the United States Census underestimated the number of residents living in the city in 2020 by nearly 16,000, leaving black residents in search for funding. But the mayor is challenging the results. Amelia Jones has the latest.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census Bureau records population data. The most recent took place in 2020.
The reported number, 577,000, was simply not accurate.
To challenge the 2020 census, the city analyzed the number of housing units.
The Census Bureau undercounted housing units and mistakenly overcounted vacant properties.
The city's IT division reviewed the city's master address list. It found the 2020 census undercounted the number of housing units by more than 2,300.
This undercount has significant impacts on the census population of cities like Milwaukee, where a majority of our residents are people of color.
Milwaukee will feel the impact in federal funding. If the challenge isn't approved, Mayor Johnson says the city could lose $7 million in grants that fund programs for affordable housing and community development programs. Plus, Mayor Johnson says Milwaukee public schools like Bradley Tech could lose up to $14 million in funding from Title I funds, impacting programs like after-school activities and free lunches.
Every dollar matters to our residents.
Milwaukee challenged a census population count in 2007. The city won. The population was adjusted by 30,000, about the same size as Mequon.
We're here to set the record straight.
The U.S. Census Bureau looks at census challenges on a first-come, first-served basis. There's no time frame on when Milwaukee's will get reviewed. In Milwaukee, Amelia Jones, Fox 6 News.
At this point, it's not clear when the Census Bureau will respond to the challenge.
Taking a census is such a huge undertaking, and I've often wondered when they come around, are they really counting every single citizen, in particular your minority groups, specifically us? I just feel like, we continue to get missed, and what that does is that leads into, like the package stated, just being shortchanged for all the many different programs and assistance that we need, health and of course the schools and undermining their budgets, which brings us back to your point about schools.
Yeah, I mean, the stories coming out of Winston-Salem and coming out of Kansas City, I think they just underscore that our school climate and student safety isn't what it needs to be. How many stories have we reported on this week and just even in recent weeks about altercations with teachers and with law enforcement in schools? We know that there is a lot of anti-Black sentiment, anti-Black hate that's going around, and we're seeing it manifest on our school campuses in all parts of the country. And so I think this is something that we've got to pay extra close attention to before things really get out of hand.
I would agree with that, and partner and couple that with being counted for. So, when those census come around, make sure you take some time out to read and fill out and send back in so we can be counted just like they were talking about how our votes are important. Each one of you is important so we can get what we need and really what we deserve as paying citizens who pay taxes, who expect state and city and nationwide services. And the census is really all about unlocking resources, right? And so if you're not counted, then when it comes to allocating resources, the powers that be, believe that we don't exist. That's and so they allocate resources to other communities, and we need a lot more resources in our schools to handle the issues related to school climate and safety. We need that quick, fast, and in a hurry. Good point. Still ahead, the latest surrounding Trey Songz. My goodness, we'll break it all down for you when we return. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.